I'm not Oscar or Brian, but I mean, a little round of applause. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. My name is Cody, and I am in student life. We are super pumped to have everybody here tonight. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping things for you. As a reminder, we are recording and live streaming this event, so we ask guests to be mindful and not leave the theater if possible. Also, the meet and greet will begin right after the panel, so in order to get as many guests through the line as possible, we are allowing guests to have autographs and to get a quick photo. We have provided autograph cards with Oscar and Brian on the cards, so if you didn't bring anything, we'll have something for you out in the atrium. And lastly, we encourage the use of masks in the theater during the event and the meet and greet. And now I will turn it over to Andrea.
Hello, how are you guys today? Ooh. Okay, I feel like we should be a little bit more pumped up, but that's okay. I'll give you guys a little warning. Just kidding. All right, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrea Valdez. I am the treasurer for SGA. We're so glad that you all were able to make it tonight, especially since it's our first speaker series and everything like that. We're incredibly excited, and we're so glad you guys are here. So before I get started, though, I just wanted to get a little recognition for Cody. So, yes. Yes, thank you. So Cody is our advisor for SGA, and he has helped us through thick and thin. He's helped us with so many events, and he's guided us through so much. And I just think that he deserves so much in the world, as well as we would not be here without him. He did this whole thing, and we helped out a little bit, give us a little credit. But I just felt like he should just be appreciated. So if we want to give him another round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All righty. So now to get things started. Alrighty, so I had the pleasure of introducing our moderator, Lacey Lett. Lacey Lett is the Director of Communications for the Goodwill Industries of Central Oklahoma, as well as her background is in journalism and broadcasting. She was a news anchor / reporter for a bunch of years, as well as DJ for rock alternative radio stations in Oklahoma City. She also worked for VH1 and MTV. MTV. She is actually an OCCC alumni, and as well, she got inducted into the OCCC Hall of Fame in 2013. Now, if we could give a warm welcome to Lacey Lett. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Are you guys excited about tonight? And a big thank you to the Student Government Association. They are hoping to put these on more often, so maybe once a year. So you guys have made it to the first one. Congratulations. So tonight we're going to sit down with two of the cast members from The Office, and then you're going to have the opportunity to meet them. Are you excited about that? And I'm guessing we have a bunch of Office fans out there. I see a lot of Dunder Mifflin t-shirts going on right here. So yes, way to sport it. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to talk about our two actors that are going to be coming out. So Kevin is played by Brian Baumgartner, of course, best known for his role in The Office, but he's also appeared in Jake in Progress, Licensed to Wed, Four Christmases, Arrested Development, and Everwood, among many, many others. He's a huge sports fan. He has his own production company focused on the sports world. He's also hosted many podcasts, including an oral history of The Office. Have you guys listened to that one? It is so good, so good. And he has a New York Times best-selling book. He also has hosted The Office Deep Dive and currently Off the Beat with Brian Baumgartner. And Oscar Martinez is played by Oscar Nunez. Oscar has an extensive film background. He's had roles in The Proposal. I know, right? That's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, oh, the stripper. Also, The 33 and Baywatch. Most recently, he was in The Lost City with Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, and Brad Pitt. He's also going to be in Disenchanted with his Office colleague, Amy Adams, and he's been featured in several TV shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Reno 911, and Shameless, again, just to name a few, both Emmy Award winners. Are you guys ready to meet Brian Baumgartner and Oscar Nunez? Come on out.
Thank you. What's up, you guys?
Hi, Lacey.
Hi, Oscar. And we have these nice comfy chairs for you. It's like we're in a living room with a ton of people watching us the whole time.
By the way, Oscar was already giving me shit backstage because you laughed harder on his introduction than mine. So thanks a lot. I hate you already.
It's not, they like us both the same as people, but when they hear the body of work, right? Like comedy, drama, I made you laugh, I made you cry. Brian's more of a like, I'm a clown, and it's good. No, we're both good. You can't judge us. We're friends. But the body of work, that's why they cheered me.
Yeah.
Strong.
As
I
the
felt
stripper.
it too. Yes.
Yes.
You get it. You guys get it.
So here's how it's going to work. A lot of you have submitted questions, and we're going to go down a lengthy list of those questions. Some were anonymous, but some we do have names for. So we'll just kind of go down the line if y'all are good with that. First off, have you been to Oklahoma before? Is this your first time?
Have you been to Oklahoma, Oscar?
You can't prove it.
Have you heard a tornado siren?
I've not been to Oklahoma. You?
Just think of me as Oklahoma and Oscar as Oklahoma State. All right? He's got the pants. He's got the pants, the OSU pants on.
On the way over here, and he just asked the kids in the back, who do people root for more? No wonder. He's always doing research. And I'm thinking, oh, he's innocent, he's curious like a child. He loads up, and then he attacks me. Then he attacks me with the local stuff, the local flavor.
It's actors divided right here.
It is.
Okay, so first question, are you ready for this? Where do you think Kevin and Oscar would be today? Ooh, yes.
Well,
thought-provoking.
when we last left, I was in politics, and you owned a bar?
I owned a bar, yeah. I hope that I'm still at the bar, actually. In fact, I wish I was there right now.
I think they'd still be there in Pennsylvania, right? They'd probably
yeah, I hope
still in
so.
politics and owning a bar.
Yeah.
They never left. Okay. Now, this one came from a student. There's no name. They wanted to remain anonymous. But how often are you guys recognized in your daily lives when you do your daily activities?
I get recognized, I think like 92% of the time, and Brian gets recognized 32% of the time. I don't know. Not so much in LA, or people don't care.
You know, it's interesting because the show is.
It's you.
Are you looking at yourself?
It's cool.
You know, when the show was on, The Office was the #1 show on NBC, right? For
You can clap. You can clap. You can clap if you want. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
You're undercutting my point. It was the #1 show on NBC, but it wasn't at the time. It wasn't like we thought of as like Friends, right? Like Friends was, you know, billboards and cover of Vogue every week and Jennifer Aniston and like the whole thing. But this weird thing has happened since the show ended in the last 7 years or whatever, that the show is bigger now than it was when it was on. And in point of fact, you know, you've got the new shows that are out, the hot shows, right? So like Succession or Stranger Things or Squid Game, all these shows have, you know, come and people talk about. Despite all of that, today, right now, more people are watching The Office than are watching any other show on television.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is insane, which, you know, like, you know, I'm not great at math, but
11.
you know, I'm putting like what, like 19 to 21, 22. You know, the students are. So, you know, when we started, it was about when you were born, and so I hope you weren't watching it then. So yeah, it just has continued to you know, the people who watched it at the time are kind of still watching it, especially during the pandemic when making connection was hard for people. And then we have, you know, a whole new audience who are watching it now. And now it feels like by the time you're 15 or 16, if you don't watch it at school, you're going to get beat up on the playground, which I think is a great thing, honestly.
You know, I was watching it in the room before coming over here.
Yeah.
And they were doing I watched the episode where he outed me. And I think it was on, like, Comedy Central.
Comedy Central, yeah.
And the word a retard, they muted him out. They muted that word out. And the word gay, they muted out too. When he was talking to me, and then when he would say, I think I'm gay, but he said, Oscar, you're, and they muted out. So weird that they were censoring it that way.
Interesting.
Anyway, nowadays, we're talking about Severance earlier, yesterday.
Yeah.
You guys watch Severance? Isn't it so bizarre? Oh my God, anyway.
Well, I was going to ask, that's actually a question in here, is why do you think it's become even more popular? I was listening to your podcast with Billie Eilish, and she's seen it probably now more than 14 times. I mean,
Right.
and she was, 18 when she'd watched it 14 times. So what is it? And I know that that's kind of the whole reasoning behind the podcast. Why do you think it has become more and more popular?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think, you know, you guys, everyone here probably has a different answer. I will tell this funny thing about, so yeah, I talked to Billie Eilish for the podcast about being the super fan, and I posted something on social media and was like, you know, Billie Eilish has seen the show 14 times. I can't tell you how many people replied going like, I've seen it 32, 14, she's an amateur, which I was like, simmer down, everybody. But, you know, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of reasons, actually, that the show has kind of endured and stayed with us. And I can get a little more serious later. But honestly, I think that the big discovery that I had in terms of, because I was like, when we made the show, we were making it for people who worked in an office, right? Like it was like, oh, okay, if people who work in an office kind of get this humor, then we'll be pretty successful. But I think that in terms of the universal experience of being in a group of people, that an unreasonable boss that makes his employees do unreasonable and stupid things while sitting next to people like Creed, that there's a really clear translation between that and the experience of an unreasonable teacher making their students do unreasonable and stupid things while sitting next to people that you don't necessarily choose to sit next to year after year. And so I think just that collective, that group experience, I think is, in terms of the sort of the understanding, that sort of base interaction of characters, disparate characters that are together, I think that's a big part of it.
I can't disprove that. I want to. I don't want to agree with everything he says. But are you sure? If we look at the people at the very core, but the bottom line is it's a funny. Here's a question. Same cast.
Should we have her leave? You want to ask me questions now? Go ahead.
Okay, fine.
If this is the 50th, sweetheart, get us some martinis. No, as I was saying, let the men. Lacey, I'm kidding. You know that. Now look.
Are we holding hands? Can we do that?
What I want to, if same cast, same writers, different format, different location for the show, would it be a hit?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Someone said yeah.
It's a big hit.
Fuck it, you said yeah.
I think it, but not as big a hit. I mean, the location, the whole theme, it's just so funny. I was just watching it. It's so ridiculous. And Michael Scott is so good. Steve Carell. It's so good. But you guys, you know, we didn't create the show. You guys know it's Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant. The original one is so funny and groundbreaking. He just came upon this thing. It's like The Odd Couple or Cheers or Taxi. It's one of those shows that it's like, boom, it's, you know, a new thing. It's a new thing. It's a new, you know.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's not world-changing, but thematically, like TV-wise, I'm just bored with my words. I'm just...
But also Greg Daniels. I mean,
Who's Greg
do you
Daniels?
think the executive producer, do you think it would have been the same show without him?
No.
He fought for no laugh track. He fought for awkward silences. All the things that made the original, he fought for that, and he got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This also brings me to my next question. Also no name, but you know, you mentioned being in the office. Well, we had the big pandemic started in 2020. So what do you think?
Well, hold on, Lacey.
Yes.
Now, this is, I think, the second or third. Correct me if I'm wrong. Cynthia, are you keeping count? We have someone up there count. Is this the third person who's anonymous? Question?
Yeah.
We will
Don't
only
worry.
take questions with people with their names who are brave enough.
I'll skip on the next one, okay? We'll get it.
Go ahead.
This is a good transition question.
What's the name of the person?
Okay.
Their name is I Have No Name.
Okay.
My
Okay,
name
the
is
last one
blank.
without a name. Go ahead.
What do you think an Office episode would look like during the pandemic?
Like, as far as us wearing masks, would we or wouldn't we? Or
Would you be in the office? Would you be remote working? You know, there's scenarios.
I have a story about that. This was really early on when the pandemic was still kind of funny, I guess. Like you thought it was gonna.
Remember when it was hilarious?
No. No, I don't mean that. I mean like when you thought it was gonna last a week and like people weren't gonna die and all that. There was a thing.
When it was hilarious.
There was a thing that came out, which was like how people would react, and like you know, I can't remember what. Someone's seen it, right? Like Dwight doesn't get sick, so he'll be fine, and Kevin was glad to be at home, and like, it was all the serious things, and I was like, oh, this is pretty clever, and I posted it, and then like a week later, I felt like such an asshole. I was like, God.
Because we didn't know. Back then it was funny.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Some would say hilarious. Then it got real. But that first
make
week,
fun of that for a year.
that first week, I laughed and laughed and laughed.
I think, to answer your question and to move on, I think that the core important thing about The Office is the interpersonal interaction. And the fact that, you know, by and large, every episode, a huge part of every episode was us being locked, if you will, in that room together, in that bullpen with that collection of characters. So I think that that's really what makes the show.
And the writers keeping it interesting.
Yeah.
Because they just, it was always surprising. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Kevin already had that big acrylics, like what we see at, you know, during the pandemic,
Oh, right.
at, you know,
He was
cashier
already
stand.
in his own-
He was already ready for it.
Yeah.
Or Angela was, one of the two.
Angela, it was never really talked about. And Angela at one point was asked the question, and she said that she made it go up because she did not want to breathe my air. It's as good a reason as any, I guess.
I have a name for you now.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. And hopefully they're in the audience. Bianca Ellis, if
Oh,
you're
not
in the
Bianca.
audience.
Not Bianca.
Bianca, are you
no,
here?
I'm sorry. Not Bianca.
Bianca,
Next,
are you here?
Next.
Bianca.
Oh,
my
okay.
gosh. All right.
Well, did you both expect the show to be as successful and popular as it was when you first started filming? So, as you got the job and versus now.
I don't know. I was optimistic, but I had doubts. I'm like, I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that I went back and did the podcast that she was referring to before was because I think it was cool, or what I wanted to do for truly people like you who who found the show on Netflix, right? And so you're which is awesome, but you're watching the episode the episodes in a void without sort of what was going on outside of it. And part of it, the thing that you should know is that, after 6 episodes, we were canceled. Like we were only going to do 6 episodes the first
Pretty
season.
much.
And then we held on by like the smallest margin. And the second year we went back, we ended up doing 22. They only ordered 6 more, which in the history of television, that doesn't happen. By the second season, the producers say, if you don't let us do a whole season, like goodbye, we'll go do something else. But people believed in the show so much and knew the show was so different at the time. Like Oscar said, there wasn't a laugh track, that there. By the way, are you hearing what I'm saying? Because I'm not talking like this. I suddenly thought they weren't hearing what I was saying.
It wasn't your voice, it's the information, it was what you were talking about.
Okay, interesting. Anyway, so the short answer, too late, is that we almost didn't exist. And so we all, I think what made the show go on was that we all believed in what we were doing, that we all liked the work and wanted to stick around. And then gradually, about the middle of season 2, it picked up.
Yes, again, I can't disagree with you. Yes, Bianca, we did the pilot, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Kate and I were waiting tables at different places. I was catering, she was waiting tables at a restaurant, and I remember we both quit at the same time. I think when we found out we got picked up for the second, and it was a very wonderful day for us. We're like, are you going to quit? Because up to that point, you don't know. We didn't know.
Where were you waiting tables?
I was catering
you were doing
at
the catering.
Cicada restaurant downtown and babysitting.
Oh, and babysitting.
I was catering and babysitting.
Kate Flannery, who played Meredith, she tells a story that she worked in a very famous kind of popular lunch spot called Kate Manalini in the middle of Beverly Hills. And
It's no longer there.
I know. And she was waiting tables, and at one point, the show, like we talked about, hadn't picked up, and Greg Daniels came in for lunch. And she's waiting tables, and it's like busy place. And Greg was like, oh, hey, Kate, come here. And like, gets her in the corner and they start talking about the show. They start talking about, oh, I think maybe your character should, and she was like, Greg, I gotta go wait tables. Like, I'll see you in a week or 2 on set or whatever.
Greg doesn't care.
He didn't care.
He didn't care. And I said on the side, you must have heard it because we're mic'd, that Kate Manalini is closed because of COVID. You remember COVID, the pandemic that was hilarious when it first started. Well, it did close some businesses. Knock, knock. Who's there? COVID-19.
All right, we have a question from Dustin Martin. Is Dustin Martin in the audience?
Dustin.
Dustin or Justin?
Dustin.
Dustin?
Justin.
Okay.
They're not submit questions and they're not. I'm about to start taking them.
Maybe they're not
I
here.
know, right? So Dustin wants to know, okay, off camera, who was the funniest member of the cast?
Off camera? The serious answer is we were all pretty normal. It was just a job. We weren't like running around like, woohoo! I don't know.
He's smiling at me. I have said this many times, and I believe that it is true. The funniest person, as a person, not in the show, it was the opposite in the show, is Oscar Nunez.
He doesn't lie. He doesn't lie. God bless him. God bless Brian. I know.
Actually, wait. I'm sorry. I'm going to say that.
Hold on.
No, wait. I don't know that you're the funniest. You make me laugh harder than anyone. I'll say that.
Why do you have to change it? Stick with your first freaking. Trust your guts, trust your heart. You said it, stick by it.
Okay.
Such a baby. I changed my mind. You're not the best. I'm the best. He said it. Damn it, Brian. Not in front of the kids. Not in front of the kids.
So Ethan wants to know, his name is Ethan Favre. He wants to know, excluding your characters, which character was your favorite?
Oh, character?
Yeah, character.
No, you can't beat Michael Scott. It's just so insane. And Dwight. So those two guys, I mean.
Also a little insane.
I know, they're just ridiculous. They would never have jobs. What'd you say? Toby?
Who said Toby? Come here. Come here. Come here.
What are you gonna do to them?
Come here.
Come up. Brian's.
Oh, they're coming, yay!
We better have something planned. Is that Bianca?
Come here.
You guys,
All
Paulie.
right, that's close enough. Go back to your seat.
Let her come on and take a bow. Take a
All
bow.
right, come here. Take a bow. Take a bow.
Take a bow.
What's your name?
I'm blessed by your presence.
Thank
Heather.
Heather, take a bow. Everyone, Heather. Heather, hey, Heather. Heather.
Don't leave us.
Paul Lieberstein wrote and directed a movie. I don't know when it's going to be out, but I had a.
Toby did?
Yeah, Toby did.
Really?
Toby wrote and directed a movie. He's a very funny writer.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah, it's called Remote.
Everybody hates him, and I love that character.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Remote?
Yeah, it's called Remote.
Do you know when it's coming out?
I don't know when it's coming out.
Can you guys discuss this later?
Go, Heather. We'll see you later. Bye. Bye, Heather.
And he was a writer on the show, on The Office.
Yeah, he's a writer
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah. So is that your final answer, is Toby?
Yeah, we'll take Heather's answer. Toby. Toby's our favorite character.
I will say this. I think that the character of Dwight is so stupid, but it's so incredible because what most people think, and most television shows, right, that they want to make characters general. Because what they think is the more general they make a character, the more people can relate to this character, right? Like that's
executive thinking.
That's the idea. But I think what Dwight proves is that the more specific you get, the more you can identify and see and go, oh, I know that guy because one trait is in it. I mean, this makes no sense, right? In terms of general, how most writers will write characters, right? This makes no sense. That a character likes anime, is a sheriff's deputy, drives a Trans Am, and listens to heavy metal music. This doesn't compute. But that's what they wrote because people are complex and they like different and disparate things, and that's why I think that character is just awesome.
And Rainn Wilson, boy, you know, it's
fine.
You kind of love to hate. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else would have done that what Rainn did with that character. Same with Steve. When I was cast in the part, they still hadn't picked a lead. Carell was doing something else, and they wanted him, but he was contracted to do something else. So they were looking at other people who were fine. We know who they are: Bob Odenkirk and I think a couple of other people who you may know or may not know. But they were all fine and great. But in my mind, I'm like, all right, this is cool. I'll do the pilot. We'll get paid, and I don't know if I'm not quitting my day job. But then whatever Steve was doing fell through, and he was available to be the lead. And I thought, we have a shot now, because Steve Carell's a whole other animal than from these guys. He's like on another level, and he proved it. I mean, it's hilarious. It's just anyway.
And he made that character so original. I was watching another moderating session where he talked about how he never watched the British version until after the show ended.
That's right.
Do you think that that's what really helped bring that character to life, was him just not even seeing somebody else doing that?
I think he still would have killed it. The thing about Michael Scott, he's more sympathetic and empathetic than Ricky Gervais's character. So Steve, Michael Scott, you're like, what an asshole, and you hate him, and then he's such an idiot that you start feeling sorry for him. And then you go, oh no, he's a poor guy, he's not that bad. And then you feel bad for him, and then he starts to circle over again, like, what an asshole. And he starts being an asshole all over again, and then you feel sorry for him, and then he starts being, it just goes round and round.
The full circle of emotions
Full
with that
circle.
character. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what was your favorite scene to act out in The Office? I was waiting for that. Somebody said chili.
I mean, look, I can only say this. I had no idea that night that I dropped the chili that we would still be talking about it all these years later. It's a crazy thing. I will tell you, in part because Oscar's here, we would once a month, 3 times every 2 months, we would have accounting dinners. This is not a joke. Oscar and Angela and I would go out.
Contractual obligation.
We would. We would go out to like a nice dinner. We would get dressed up and go, and we had plans to go to a fancy steakhouse that night and have a meal. And these guys were psyched because they got to go home early because that was the last thing that we filmed that day. I'm incredibly proud at this point, because we're still talking about it, that what you saw was one take. That was and there were contingency plans for doing multiple takes, but I don't know that they could have cleaned me, actually.
It's a mess.
We showed up at dinner that night. My hands still smelled like chili. After like scrubbing, they were like kind of orange colored. And we had a dinner that night that was kind of ruined by that. But I think, look,
He's got a book coming out.
it's
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's gonna,
I do.
I'm trying to speak. I've heard this story, but you're right. It's the first time for them. They haven't heard this story. Go ahead, proceed.
I think in truth, that people respond to that moment. I think that in some ways it is symbolic of what the show is trying to talk about, right? The last line of the 10 years, the 9 seasons that Greg Daniels, the creator, wrote is it's beauty in ordinary things. Isn't that kind of the point? And to me, how I look at it now is it funny? Yeah, it's hilarious. It was great. Job by me. But really, it's about somebody, an ordinary guy, who does one thing really well, and he F's it up. But that, being proud of doing that thing, having that victory that doesn't get to be celebrated this year, but hopefully next year it does, I think, without getting like incredibly deep, I think that feeling of the character is that the show is a comedy, but you start to care about the characters and their small victories, whether it's making chili or winning a parking space or whatever.
That scene that people laugh and they're like, it's so funny. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. When I was growing up, right? I feel
It does. It really
I'm like, oh my God, it's such a trigger for me. There was a kid. His name was Lazaro, and we on my block where I grew up in Union City. That's my dad's name too. And we didn't beat him up, but we picked on him. And his sister got married, and at the reception he was so happy, and he had a big tray of like drinks, and he was so happy, Lacey. and he was walking across the dance floor, and he slipped and fell, of course, because he did that shit all the time. And people laughed, and I laughed, and then like a minute later, I felt so bad, because I'm like, freaking Lazaro can't get a break, and I laughed really hard, and I'm like, I think I helped him up, but I was still laughing very hard. And to this day, and that reminded me of that. When he fell, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my God, this guy made chili all night. And you were so happy. You were so happy, like, I did it. And then he falls, and then he's trying to get it in, like, and I'm like, oh my God. And they filmed it. I'm like, fucking Kevin. Oh my God.
It's hard to go back and watch it. Like, you almost have to fast forward
It breaks my heart.
It's really sad.
It's so sad because I think of Lazarus, like the same thing. He was walking. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Yeah.
Lazaro, I grew up in Union City apartment buildings, right? I came from Cuba. We had an apartment. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a house, but my parents paid for private school for me and my sister. Anyway, but Lazaro is playing chess on the stoop downstairs. He brought out his chess set. Why? He's gonna get beat up just for that. You don't play chess on the sidewalk where I grew up. And he's playing chess with a buddy of his. We got water balloons because we can't just fucking leave him in peace. We went to the roof, me and my friends, and we had like 20 water balloons, and we dropped it on him. And his friend playing chess from 4 stories up.
He's laughing right now. He's trying to say he feels bad, and he's like, "Can we drop the water balloons?"
He couldn't get a break. Oh,
My
fuck.
God, you're a bully.
The fucking chess pieces went flying everywhere. He's wet. He's like, and we're laughing like devils. Oh, teenage boys. Oh, shit.
Did he cry? Did you make him
No, he always would laugh. But again, let me emphasize, we never beat him up physically. It was just stuff like this. Which isn't good, but it made him stronger, right?
Where's he at now?
I don't know. I hope he's an attorney. I hope he's happy.
Successful.
All right, go ahead.
So we were talking about favorite scenes from the show. What about a favorite episode? Or you can say a favorite scene as well. I have one
From
for
what?
you if you want me to tell you what
From
I
the
think.
show?
From the show,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I just watched Gay Wish Hunt at the hotel before coming here, and it was really
Sorry.
it was really good, and I forgot, like, it's also happens to be around the time where Pam was going to get married, and then she doesn't, and then like Jim has a scene where he tells her, "I'm in love with you," and she's like, "What do you expect me to do with this?" And those two guys are acting their ass off, and Krasinski like cries, but really cool, like just one tear comes down, and then he walks away and wipes, and I was like, shit, that was good. So the show had many facets to it, you know? Anyway.
Well, I was going to say the scene where there's the fire drill, and you are literally, that's so good. You're literally in the ceiling.
That was a crazy day. That was a crazy day of shooting. Oh, that was crazy, that scene.
Yeah.
How much of that was improvised, or was it all
No, it was
choreographed?
choreographed.
No, that
it was all fucking...
Yeah. And that I will say in terms of
It had to be, because someone could have gotten hurt. We're running around like maniacs. Those were real cats.
yeah. That,
By the way, this is a question, too, from EJ.
From who?
EJ Couch.
EJ, are you here?
EJ, what's up? Yes!
Yes!
Brave like Heather. Remember Heather, you guys? She came right up here. Fucking Heather. We miss her. Where is she?
EJ, I'm glad you're here. Really, really stupid question. No, I'm kidding.
What's his question?
What was the question?
I just say it was a good transition, but like, how much of that was improvised versus choreographed?
Oh, no, it was choreographed.
Yeah, that was actually, there was another opening of a season. I don't know if they called it that. We called it lip dub, right? That like, na 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 na.
Oh, yeah,
na,
that.
na. That and the opening, the fire thing, those were like days of rehearsals, right? Because there were the live cats and the ceiling and the vending machine and the, trying to bust the copier through the door and fire. Yeah, so that was all pretty much done. Although I will say this, and I'm very proud of that this accident happened, and I was an ass. There's a moment in that section, and they ended up putting it into the credits a few years later, but Kevin has raided the vending machine, and everyone's running through the kitchen. And Randall Einhorn was our director of photography, and he was actually holding the camera as we were running. And I gave him an elbow, not intentionally, but I bumped him, and he went flat down on his back.
It might be in the bloopers.
And there was, no, it's in the episode. This is actually in that shot. And we had this big guy, his name is Chris Workman, who was the assistant camera guy. I guess it's his fault. His job, like what he would do when the cameras were moving around is he's basically like holding his shoulder so he doesn't bump into something or fall down or trip over something. And so he was this big, burly guy, and Randall goes whoop down, and Chris grabs him by the shoulders and picks him back up, and he just keeps filming. So that was improvised, and they were trying to find out, like, and I don't know if they blurred stuff out, but like, you know, you're seeing the ceiling, you might see some lights or whatever. And they ultimately were like, we don't care, that shot was so cool, what he did, and so like jerky and spontaneous and hectic, and so that wasn't planned.
But I mean, it looked like that whole set was trashed from that scene. That's what I kept thinking about. I don't know about you guys, but it felt like, oh my gosh, this is a really expensive scene.
Yeah, you know, what they did when they finally found the kind of the formula was in, we call them the cold opens, right? Well, like the chili scene or that scene. Greg wanted an episode, by and large, that existed within one day. So at the beginning of the episode, the day starts, and by the end, the day is over. It's not going over a week or whatever.
When it's staying in the office.
Weight loss, there's a few episodes it's not, but
yeah.
What the cold open allowed them to do is say this came from another day. We're going to edit together this story that's somehow important or funny or whatever that happened this day, and the cold open. So that's the thing, is like the chili spill is immediately gone in that episode. That you know goes back to normal. So yeah, that's what we did with those opening scenes. Or
It was choreographed. Yeah.
So, Cheyenne Munoz wants to know, who do you think the Scranton Strangler is?
I think it's Creed, and you think it's Toby? Is that what we landed on? Right?
Toby.
My
true answer is, I don't give a shit.
We hate the question, but we get it a lot.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. Like, everyone always asks the question, and this is the truth.
It's a fake show.
I don't think there's an answer.
The writers make it
The
up.
writers made it.
It's not real. We never think about it.
They wanted Michael Scott to fall in love with Holly, and they needed to get Toby, her favorite character, out of the way. And so they invented this trial.
We don't think about it.
I don't know.
We don't care. We don't care.
But maybe Creed. I don't know.
They say there's no stupid questions. You hear that all your life. It's true if up to 5 years old. If you're an adult, you can do a safe stupid question. Not that this is one, but there are stupid questions. Just so you know, there are stupid questions. People say, oh, there's no stupid questions. Yes, there's stupid questions. Of course there's stupid questions. If you're little, there's no stupid questions. Am I right?
Do I ask stupid questions?
No, Kevin did not ask stupid questions.
Okay.
Kevin wasn't dumb.
No.
I don't think so.
You think he was actually a genius underneath?
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. I didn't say that.
Isn't there like a theory though that he's like a genius?
He's a savant. He could play cards or.
There's a Reddit thread. Yeah, that Kevin is, and people pulled like these tiny moments of me like counting money in the back.
Well, if it's pies, then he can do that. That was funny. That was a funny scene. That's the writers, you guys. Remember that?
Yeah.
When they put it in pies, you're like, 5,000, and everyone's like, what the fuck? That was funny. That was funny.
So Caleb Cervantes, if you're in the audience, say woo. Okay. How do you keep a straight face when there is a funny scene in the show?
We're professionals. You think they just came out to the sidewalk and said, you, come in here, put on some makeup and been doing this, he went to college. He's right?
Yeah.
You know what? Ed Helms used to break me up and Steve Carell would break me up once in a while, but for the most part, I don't know. I didn't. Did you break with?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. Did you have a secret? Did you have a trick?
No, I just don't want to. I'm like, if it's a good take, I feel bad laughing because then the take is ruined. And we have to do it over again. I'm not going to ruin a good take because I'm, self-indulgent and giggling.
Yeah, but see, that's interesting. And we actually haven't had this theoretical conversation before, but we've talked a little bit about the beginning of this, but I believe Steve Carell specifically was trying to make everybody laugh.
Oh, yeah. He got a kick out of it. It's called joy. I don't have joy. I take it very seriously, and I've done improv for a long time, so I'm very serious about the comedy, and I don't want to break. John Krasinski was a joyful young man, and he would laugh like a normal person. But my way of thinking is, this is a really good take. I want it to be able to use it. I want it to go on, to be in the show. So I'm not going to break, and then we have to cut. Let's do it again. Well, now the really funny thing we can't use.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. But I think that there was an energy that Steve specifically, and I think everybody was trying to create that kept everybody just right on the edge.
Yeah, and it's nice to laugh at things too. I'm the asshole sometimes. I'm like, so John laughs, so what? It's cool. And he would laugh, and then it would be contagious. Angela would break. Mindy Kaling would break all the time.
I don't think Mindy Kaling ever didn't laugh at a tape.
I was going to say specifically, you can still see in the show when you're sitting on Steve Carell's lap, and you can see her in the background.
And Ed Helms has to leave. He leaves the scene because he's laughing too much. Because that was a ridiculous scene.
It was, and that was the take they used.
What do you want, little boy? I don't know. No one's ever told me to sit on their lap. Oh God, Kevin! It's the best.
Yeah, I don't think they had a take there.
No, it was too funny.
There's
sit on my lap, little boy.
There was one scene in the show that I couldn't get through. Very simple moment, but it was Holly. Yeah, there you go.
That was a funny episode.
There you go. When I'm at the vending machine.
Jesus Christ. It's so fucked up. It's fucked up. That's so wrong. We can't do that today.
And she says, like, this is a button. And there was just something about the genuineness in her eyes. And trying to help me so much. And it was just so funny to me, and I had to laugh.
So fucked up.
And I was like, I don't know how to get through this, and there's no way to just remove her for me to do it. and so I knew that what the next scene was, and so instead of not laughing, I embraced the laugh smile and looked at the camera because I knew the next thing was going to be me saying, I'm totally going to bang Holly.
And in the parking lot, she's like, what are you doing? I'm driving my car. She's like, oh, what? You're so brave.
So bad.
You're so brave. He's like, I can drive.
So bad.
And then finally, which is horrible, Angela's like, you're an idiot. She's like, no, you don't do that. You don't call him an idiot. He's doing his best. And Angela's like, he is an idiot. He's an idiot. Look at him. She's like, no, you can't do that. That's fucked up. Who wrote that episode?
There were a couple.
Oh, that was so funny. Jesus Christ.
Are you ready for your next question?
You don't say those things to him. Why not? He is an idiot. She's like, no. I'm getting laid.
He's like redoing my scenes up here.
That was a funny episode. Holy shit.
Okay,
That's a good show. Who would,
it's a great show. That's why we're here tonight. Ariadne Vera wants to know, were you ever frustrated?
Are you here?
Ariadne Vera.
I don't know where they got these questions. The internet.
You drive a car? Yes,
Well,
it's
these
my
were
car.
submitted.
You can drive?
That was real.
Not in front of the kids.
So were you ever frustrated with your own character or one of your peers and wanted to break character?
What?
Were you ever frustrated with one of your, with your character or somebody else in your actor's realm, one of your peers?
Frustrating in what way?
I didn't write the question though.
Remember we
I
talked
don't
about
know.
stupid questions earlier?
You want clarity?
Check your notes.
Here,
Remember we
someone
talked
here?
about stupid questions? We discussed this, remember earlier?
It's that one.
Were you ever frustrated with your own characters or one of your peers and wanted to break
Let's move to the next question.
It has her name. I don't think we should say her name.
She already did.
Who's the stupid one now? I don't know. And wanted to break character. Why would we break character? Because we were frustrated. Number 14. Can you decipher the question? Like the meaning of the question?
Yeah.
Oh.
If we didn't like what the writers wrote? Say again?
If you didn't agree with what your character was doing because it was wrong or something like that.
Or didn't agree with where the writers were going.
Yeah.
I don't. You know
Thanks
what?
for your question.
If that happened, it would be like at the table read, and you would go, "Huh, that's weird." I don't think I ever had that experience.
No, I mean, look, there was, and I don't even know if this answers the question, but there was Greg Daniels. Well, he came from a lot of shows, but he worked on Saturday Night Live, and one of the things that he wanted on The Office was a collaboration. So we had writers who were actors and actors who wrote occasionally or directed or whatever.
And some of the actors were like fucking classically trained dancers who could dance, ballet if called upon or not, doesn't matter. Continue.
Everything inside of me wanted no one to laugh when he did that, and you guys kind of gave it up to him. So there was always conversation. The writers who wrote the episode, Greg, everybody was on set all the time, so there was a huge amount of discussion. So, I mean, I think ultimately, under today's lens, 2022, when we were filming it, would we have had more discussion about some choices that were made that you maybe quote unquote couldn't do or shouldn't do or couldn't say or shouldn't say. But at the time, anything that sort of wasn't consistent with the character was kind of worked out on set or in the table read, as Oscar said.
Yes, we were open to disagree if need be, but the writers were so good. They were really good.
So are there any questions you guys have always wanted to ask each other? I know you guys are good friends, IRL, in real life. So do you guys have any questions you've always wanted to ask each other?
A question for Brian? Geez, I never thought of that. Anything you want to know?
About you?
Yeah.
Not really.
I think I'm good too.
I'll help out.
Okay.
Let me do
Okay.
one. There's a rumor. It's not even funny. Go ahead. Do yours.
So you were actually just on Brian's podcast, right?
That's right.
And I thought it was very interesting about your former job as a dental technician.
How is that interesting?
It's so interesting because
I thought it was really interesting. So I had done, let's be honest, I had some researchers do some deep dive into Oscar's past. And he went to dental technician school, which I thought I had known him all these years and didn't know that he stuck his hands in people's mouths. Which to me was a very funny idea. But no, Oscar, a dental technician are the people who build the thing. You're a craftsman, basically. He made crowns or teeth or something.
A dentist and a hygienist can put their hands in your mouth. A dental technician should not do that. And if you know a dental technician who's saying, hey, let me get in there and fix things. No, run. You're in a laboratory and you make, at that time, ceramic teeth and bridges. Then you send them back to the dentist and he puts it in the patient's mouth. And then, oh, it's too tight, whatever. And then he'll adjust it or he'll send it back to the lab and you grind it up and it's very exciting. But I did that for I think a year or close to a year. And then I stopped because I was going crazy.
it'd be hard.
I didn't want to do it.
That's what she said.
By the way, nothing against dental technology. It's a great field. My cousin did it and ran a laboratory. That's one of the reasons I got into it. But anyway, I stopped doing it.
Okay. So, in the very beginning, Kevin didn't seem like he was as dumb, but as the show developed, your character shifted more into this role. Was that a choice that you made, or the directors and writers?
Yeah, so as we've talked about a few times, the show came from Ricky Gervais, the British version of The Office. And what Greg Daniels wanted to do in our version, because he wanted to run 200 and whatever episodes like we did, he wanted the core cast to be larger, right? So that's why the core cast is much larger. But Kevin specifically came from a British character. There were only 5 or 6 of us, called Keith. And so that's where it started with the character of Keith, who was described as, and when I was cast, the character description was, the only thing remarkable about Kevin is that he is remarkably unremarkable. So that's where it started. But I think very early on, even the second episode that we ever did, Diversity Day, the episode Diversity Day, there's the Jamaican, I think you do, man, with Angela. But there's a moment at the very end, very small, totally insignificant moment, where the meeting is totally over or whatever, and it cuts to Kevin and he's still wearing the thing on his head. I don't remember if that was my idea or if that was a writer's idea at the time. I truly don't remember. But the writers essentially started to fall in love with that side of Kevin, a childlike, getting great joy out of very small things. And so the characters began to morph. So I had because I did, as Oscar said, go to college, and I had a weird justification for how the character began to evolve. And it was that the first time we see Kevin, obviously the documentary crew has shown up that day, and that Kevin was incredibly nervous and shy around the cameras. But as they stayed around a little more, I imagine he became friends with maybe the sound guy, or went out for a beer with the cameraman and started to feel more comfortable. And as he got more comfortable, more of his true personality came out. So that's...
Like The Simpsons, you morphed. Your character changed.
It's very interesting. And that wasn't... But if you go back and look at The Simpsons, the character of Homer Simpson...
Completely different.
It has this very similar pattern. And Greg Daniels was a writer, on The Simpsons, and that is why the Homer doll sits there in the middle of the office, if you've ever noticed that.
So I know you've gotten this question a million times, but what about the voice? How did you come up with that voice for your character?
You know, I mean, it just kind of developed. I mean, the one thing that I will say is that I came from theater. Like, I was doing straight theater, and for me, the body, the physicality, the voice, that was just always a part of creating a character for me. So, you know, the other thing so it's, if you, physically, I always had this idea, right, that Kevin was unaware of his size in space. That he wasn't aware that he was that big, and that also he didn't rotate on his hips. So, like, whereas if you said something, I would turn to you and look at you like that. But if you said something and he needed to turn,
call Kevin.
he would have to turn
Kevin.
like this. And then go back to Michael or whatever. So that was always, you know, I had a little jaw thing that I sort of did, and that was just a part of how he was created.
Well, that's cool. That's very interesting.
It's very funny.
So Andrea Wallen wants to know, Oscar, what was the hardest part about filming The Office?
The hardest?
Other than going through the ceiling of the office.
Nothing was hard about it, but let me see. What was the hardest part?
Did you? What was the thing? I was trying to remember how they did it. You doing the ice skating? What was the thing?
Oh,
about
yeah. That was, okay, I got sick. The ice skating, when I'm ice skating, it's a stunt double, but then they put me out there. They had a box that spins, like on the ice, and they put me out there so they could get my face, and they were spinning me around on the ice. And this has never happened before. I turned green. And I was dizzy and I couldn't shake it. I was dizzy like for 2 hours. I felt so sick. That was the hardest. Other than that, it was like kind of arguably like the best job I've ever had. So there was nothing. I met friends. It's it's not a movie that you go and you film for 3 months or 6 months and you're done. It was a series. Like for years, we were on the show. It's a regular playing gig, and on top of it, it's an award-winning, funny show. That's all. I wanted to be on a funny show. I never thought. When I was little, I thought, I want to be on a show like, if I can be on a show like Mary Tyler Moore, like a sitcom like that, that'd be great. And I got to be on one. So I was pretty. Thank you.
So they didn't teach you to spot in your ballet classes that you took?
I was on a box. Oh, you mean when I did ballet? Yeah, that was such a long time ago, and I went on scholarship. And what happened was I went to the School of Ballet in New York.
You did?
Yeah, at the Lincoln Center. As a teenager, I was plucked out
You're so full of shit.
high school. She's interested. Look how interested she is. And
It's
then
a good story.
I did for a couple of years, and then I twisted my ankle very badly, and that was that. But when I walk, people are like, he's a dancer or whatever, and I'm like, not anymore. And they're like, oh, you could be. And I'm like, stop. I can't. No, seriously, I can't. I'm too old. Ballet's hard, you guys. It's not easy. It looks easy. It's not. Take my word for it. And I just have to face that fact. I can't. I'll never be a professional premier ballerina for the New York City Ballet Company or any other ballet company. I won't. Stop. It'll never happen. Fucking people clapping. You can do it. No, I can't. I know you love me. I know you want. I can't, you guys. It's over.
But you're an award-winning television show, and that's good enough, Oscar.
It's good
That's
enough.
good enough.
It's good enough.
You know, it's interesting. You know, most comedians will bail on a joke when it's not working.
Bullshit. No.
You just dig your heels in and go.
Because they don't know any better. They'll laugh tonight at home at 1 a.m. They'll be like, oh, shit. I get it now. If you have Disney Plus, there's a documentary called On Point. Anyone? One person.
There's one over there.
Are you saying you were in it?
No, but But that's what we went through. It's about kids in the Lincoln Center going through ballet. It's incredible.
Okay,
What
we'll
we went
watch it.
through. Anyway, go ahead.
So is that the TV shows? I was going to ask you guys, what TV shows do you think are excellent right now?
Severance.
Severance. I'm telling you, Severance is so good.
It's so freaky. Winning Time, I was telling him about it. It's about the LA Lakers thing.
Yeah.
Slow Horses I like because Gary Oldman, I'll watch whatever he does. What else? Oh, Russian Doll? Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
So trippy and weird.
I watch Yellowstone. I like Yellowstone. I mean, in terms of comedy, it's been a while now since obviously that I thought there were really funny things in Schitt's Creek.
What's that sketch show? I Must Be Leaving. You Should Leave. That's messed up. That guy's funny. What a weirdo. That's a funny show. What else are you watching?
I don't know.
I feel like, you
I
know,
watch documentaries.
documentaries are good.
There's some documentaries.
Like On Point.
On Point is a beautiful documentary. Then there's some about monsters, like men who are monsters, like Bad Vegan. It's crazy. You guys, and there's one about this English celebrity. What's his name? Jimmy Savile, a British Horror Story. Have anyone heard of that? He's a monster. He's a monster. It is so messed up, and it happened. Anyway, on that note.
Lots of shows. Do you think there will ever be a show like The Office that just
Never.
keeps getting more and more popular, and it kind of is timeless in a lot of ways, most of the episodes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I mean, look. I mean, we were talking a
You
little
should
bit about
think
this before.
you start speaking. You start speaking as if you have something, and you're like,
Well, no. I mean, I think that
just so I won't talk.
we also because I knew you were going to start making this joke again, but we just went through
Is that such a horrible thing?
extraordinary time with the pandemic.
The pandemic turned on us, you guys. At the beginning, it was fucking off the hook. So funny. Remember? Fucking hilarious. And then it turned on us. And we're like, what? They're supposed to be funny. And pandemic's like, well, you don't know the real me. We all laughed. We laughed. Parades. Remember the parades for COVID-19 back in the day? It's fucking funny.
I think that specific time in terms of people looking for a connection, I think that it just sort of rejuvenated the show yet again. And so I don't know. I'm sure there'll be something. But the fact that more people are watching it now than were at the time, I mean, I think that's unprecedented so far.
You know, Brian, I see and I watch, I love drama, I love Severance and stuff like that, but comedies are hard to come by. I don't know why. Fleabag I really liked. I can't think of one. Fleabag's amazing. She's freaking amazing, that woman, and it's funny as shit. But the sketch show we were talking about, that's a sketch show, it's not a series. I don't know I'm not watching anything now I tried to watch the one about the pirates. Oh, you know what's not bad? But again, it's not a full comedy. The Outlaws. Steve Merchant, the creator of The Office, has a show now with Christopher Walken. And it's okay, it's funny, but it's not hilarious. It's not like The Office.
I think that this was something that came out of the time doing the podcast that we talked about, was that there's something about The Office also that doesn't feel dated. In other words, you have shows, even Friends, it's about the style, it's about the wardrobe, it's about this. But you were talking about documentaries before. By its definition, a documentary can't be dated, right? Like if you're doing a documentary on the 60s, you don't watch it and go like, oh, that's so dated. It's like, no, it's about the 60s or the 70s
Right.
or whatever, the 80s. Whereas this...
Or the 50s, or the 40s.
But this, I think it was about a specific time and place, and the story exists there. And whenever you watch it, it's still about there. You know, it's interesting. I think a huge influence, and not that we never used it, that would happen now that I think would really hurt the show in terms of the human connection is the cell phones. You know, we had some cell phones, but not all of the texting, you know, all of the constant FaceTime on that device. Not that we never used it, but it just wasn't as
You're right, prevalent.
it wasn't as prevalent.
We
then.
had cell phones, right?
We had iPhones at that time and stuff, but yeah, I think that would hurt it way more.
That was what, 10 years ago, The Office? 10?
7, 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was on the show.
Yeah.
Don't remember.
And you know, OCCC has a wonderful film department, so congrats to you guys.
What does that mean?
It is state of the art.
This
You
building.
make phones here? You make phones?
No.
Films.
Film.
Oh, film.
Yeah. I'm glad you heard me. I was like, I don't
Films.
confused. I know.
I was thinking about.
I took a turn. Yeah, sorry. No, it's a wonderful film school here. So, and I know there are a lot of film students out there. So, what advice would you give to them if they're wanting to get into the acting world or just production world?
Now, I would say two things. One, just do it. I mean, literally, it's so cheap now to make something high quality. I mean, the cell phone I have in my pocket shoots things better than, you know, $10,000 cameras did 12 years ago. I mean, it's insane. And the ability to, for better or worse, to post content online, don't listen to the comments, but be able to have a dialogue with other people and to show your work. But it's more the experience of working that I think is so valuable. And the second thing is, and this is more of a television thing because it's always cool, right, to watch films. Films are cool. There was a thing where people were like, oh, I'm an actor. I don't watch television. This was always the stupidest thing in the world to me. Like, if that's the medium that you want to work in, what's happening in that medium? What are people exploring? What are the aesthetics? What genres are being explored? And you know, specifically, if you're an actor, that was all I did, because I was like, well, if I get an audition for this show, what is the sensibility? How are they shooting it? What does it look like, feel like? How are the characters moving and acting? So those are the two things.
Yes.
One, shoot something and have the experience, because it is not easy to work on a professional set. It's so crazy. In the podcast that I'm doing now, and John Hamm and I just talked about this in the episode that aired this week. John Hamm of Mad Men. But we were talking about, like, walking onto a set with people you don't know and being told to stand here, and when you're new, the camera and how you react to the camera and it moving and lights and causing shadows and all of those things, the more you do and the more that becomes second nature, right? Like, that just gives you a huge leg up in terms of being professional on set. And when people say they hire, people hire the same people over and over, that's weird, or, oh, they hire their friends. It's because they know at a base level they're gonna do those skills correctly. So that's...
Yeah, surround yourself with like-minded people and do like Brian said. It's funny because, you know, I was in the Groundlings program, and so when I get lucky enough, if it ever happens again, where I can be a showrunner or whatever. I had a show on Comedy Central, and I thank you, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, and I didn't, but it's all good, it's all fine. But I know enough people that I don't have to cast. It's really hard. So find your little group, like Judd Apatow, like Will Ferrell does, like Greg Daniels or whoever it is, and start making stuff.
Networking is important then.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah, you guys are gonna make friends here you're gonna know for the rest of your life. But what is it?
No, I was just saying, well, she said networking. I mean, I don't know, like, there were a few people who had intimate relationships on The Office, but in terms of like who Greg Daniels hired, I mean, he didn't know Steve Carell or Ray Wilson
No,
or
Greg
John
Daniels.
or Jenna or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
or
yeah.
me or,
Yeah.
you know. So
He's not from that school of thought.
Yeah, it's not so much the networking, it's the having, I heard this story once of a kid who was auditioning, this is a true story, from a friend who was directing a kid show. And the kid gets up on stage and says, he's auditioning, "My name is Owen. I talk loud and I show up on time." and the friend who was telling me the story was like, that's kind of like 50% of it. I mean, that's theater. But like you show up on time and you're loud enough, like that, and it is like, I can't tell you. I mean, on our show, on The Office, actors who come in and they can't do it. There is the lights, the other people becomes paralyzing, and that person has practiced their lines at home on their sofa. They know every word, and suddenly, you know, Steve Carell is standing there, and the lights are there, and the camera is right here in their face. They can't say it. Again, I'm going to talk about my podcast a little more. Rob Riggle, the genius, hilarious Rob Riggle, who played Captain Jack. And he told me the story, and I had totally forgotten. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh yeah, that was so awkward. The booze cruise captain took place on Lake Wallenpaupack. He couldn't say Wallenpaupack.
Rob Riggle couldn't say it?
He couldn't, and he'd been on SNL at the time. He couldn't say that word. So anyway, try to eliminate as many barriers as you can.
I'm glad he stayed and did the part because he's awesome. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Well, I think we're out of time, but thank you guys so much for coming to Oklahoma and OCCC.
Thanks, guys.
And are you ready to meet all of these folks?
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
So everybody,
Good job, Lacey.
Oscar and Brian will be doing autographs out and meeting you guys out here right in the atrium. So if you want to go to this side, that's where the line will start.